Stop right there. If you've used cash recently for anything, and I mean anything at all, you need to hear this right now because what's happening across the country is going to shock you. The IRS and Treasury Department have completely changed the game, and it's not just about those big $10,000 transactions anymore. We're talking about purchases as small as $200 getting flagged, accounts getting frozen, and everyday people getting interrogated at their own banks just for depositing their own money. This isn't some conspiracy theory. This is happening right now in multiple states, and if you're not aware of what's going on, you could be the next person dealing with a frozen bank account. Stay with me because I'm about to show you exactly what's happening and what you need to know to protect yourself. Before we go any further, I need you to do something really important. Hit that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications because here at Benefit Vault, we're committed to bringing you critical information that directly affects your money and your financial freedom. The mainstream media isn't talking about this enough, and that's exactly why we're here. Smash that like button too, because it helps us get this warning out to more people who desperately need to know about these changes. Trust me, by the end of this video, you'll understand why this matters so much. Now let me tell you what's really going on, and I'm not going to sugarcoat any of this. The United States government, specifically the Treasury Department and the IRS, are now watching cash transactions at levels we've never seen before. And when I say watching, I mean actively flagging, investigating, and in some cases, freezing accounts over amounts that most of us would consider completely normal everyday transactions. We're not talking about suspicious criminal activity here. We're talking about regular people buying electronics, depositing business income, or even purchasing gift cards getting treated like they're doing something wrong. Let me give you some concrete examples that are happening right now, and these are real stories from real people. There's a Treasury Department order that just came out, literally just days ago on January 9th, 2026, and this is affecting counties in multiple states. In Minnesota specifically, in Hennepin and Ramsey counties, anyone sending $3,000 or more to a foreign country now has to file a report beforehand. Not after the transaction, but before. They're saying this is in response to widespread fraud detected across the state. But here's what they're not telling you. This isn't just a Minnesota problem. This is rolling out nationwide, and the amounts they're looking at are getting smaller and smaller. But it gets even more intense than that. There's another order that requires currency transaction reports. These are called CTRs, for transactions over just $200. $200. Think about that for a second. That's not a major purchase. That's not some suspicious activity. That's groceries for a family for a week. That's a phone bill and an electric bill combined. That's a tank of gas and a few items at the store. And they're now requiring businesses, specifically money services businesses along the southwest border, to report these transactions if they're in cash and they're between $200,000 and $10,000. The Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is called FinCEN for short, has issued these geographic targeting orders, and what they're basically saying is that the majority of fraud isn't happening with those big transactions over $10,000 that everyone was worried about for years. No. They're saying the real fraud is happening at these lower amounts, and that's why they're cracking down so hard on everyday cash usage. But here's my question, and I want you to think about this with me. If someone is legitimately trying to commit fraud, don't you think they're smart enough to know about these limits and work around them? Meanwhile, honest, hard-working people who prefer to use cash for legitimate reasons are getting caught up in this massive surveillance net. Let me share some real stories with you. And these are from actual people who have experienced this firsthand. One person commented that they were making cash deposits into their bank probably 4 to 6 days per week because they buy and sell shoes as a side business. Totally legitimate business, right? They're putting their profits into cryptocurrency, which is completely legal. But after a few weeks of doing this, their bank flagged their account and froze it due to what they called suspicious activity. The bank told them that any amount over $200 is now being reported. This person wasn't doing anything illegal. They were running a small business and managing their money, and they got their account frozen. Here's another story that really caught my attention. Someone went to buy a cell phone at a major electronics retailer. The purchase came to about $900, and because they paid in cash, the cashier asked for their ID. Now, when has buying a phone with cash ever been suspicious? This person thought it was weird too, but when they questioned it, the cashier told them they didn't have a choice. If they wanted to buy the phone, they had to provide identification. Another person chimed in saying they wouldn't have given their ID for a simple purchase like that, but the store insisted it was required. This is the world we're living in now, where paying with cash makes you look suspicious. And it's not just electronics. Someone else shared that they bought several gift cards in November for a company Christmas party. They were paying in cash, and the store asked for their ID, saying it was because of suspicious activity. Gift cards for a Christmas party. How is that suspicious? But that's exactly what's happening all across the country, and it's getting more intense by the day. Now, let me connect some dots for you because there's a bigger picture here that you need to understand. We've been hearing a lot lately about businesses charging surcharges for credit card use. Some places want you to pay an extra 3% if you use your credit card, so people think, okay, I'll use my debit card instead. But then we're also hearing constant warnings about card skimmers, about scammers stealing debit card information, and about people losing their entire savings with no protection because debit cards don't have the same fraud protection as credit cards. So then people think, well, the safest thing is to just use cash. Cash is untraceable, it's immediate, it's final. Problem solved, right, wrong. Because here's what's really going on. The United States government prefers, and I'm putting this mildly, they strongly prefer that we use digital transactions. Credit cards, debit cards, electronic transfers, anything that leaves a digital trail that can be tracked, monitored, and analyzed. And I want you to think about something for a moment. If every single transaction you make is being tracked digitally, is that information really secure? Could that information potentially be used against you in ways you haven't even considered? Let me paint a picture for you. Imagine your insurance company gets access to your spending habits. They see you eat at fast food restaurants frequently. Could they increase your health insurance premiums? You travel to certain countries often for vacation. Could that flag you as some kind of security risk? You make purchases at certain types of stores. Could that affect your credit score or your ability to get loans? I know this sounds extreme, but we're already seeing the beginnings of this kind of monitoring, and it's only going to get more invasive if we don't pay attention. Drop a comment below right now and let me know. Have you experienced anything like this? Has your bank questioned your cash deposits or withdrawals? Have you been asked for ID when making a cash purchase? I want to hear your stories because the more we share these experiences, the more we understand what's really happening across the country. And please, share this video with everyone you know because this affects everyone who uses cash, and that's pretty much all of us at some point. Let me share another really troubling story with you. This one is from someone who runs a legitimate daycare center. They posted on social media about their experience, and it's eye-opening. They have full-time children at their daycare, plus they get between 1 and 4 drop-ins every single day. The parents of these part-time kids usually pay each day in cash or by check, which is completely normal for this type of business. But now, whenever this person takes cash to the bank, the tellers always ask where the money came from and how they acquired it. When they explain they own a daycare center, the tellers actually laugh, thinking it's a joke. They're not joking. They're running a legitimate business. But here's where it gets really serious. Earlier this week, their account got flagged, and now they can't deposit any cash at all. The bank said they'll accept cash deposits and hold them, but the money won't be accessible until this person provides adequate proof of their legitimate business. Think about what this means. Someone running a licensed daycare, taking care of children, providing a valuable service to their community, can't access their own money because they accept cash payments. How is that fair? How is that reasonable? And this isn't an isolated incident. I remember seeing similar reports about nail salons, hair salons, tanning salons, all these small businesses that traditionally operate with a lot of cash transactions. These business owners were being questioned every single time they went to deposit money. It didn't matter if it was $100 or $5,000. The bank wanted to know, where did you get that money? Why do you have so much cash? Why are all the bills 20s? On and on with the questions. I actually experienced something similar myself, and let me tell you about it. I went to deposit a bunch of $20 bills at my bank. It was more than a handful, quite a few 20s actually. The teller immediately asked where I got the money from. I told them I sold some stuff. They pressed further, asking what did I sell. I explained I sold some items, trying to keep it simple, but they kept pushing, saying they had to fill out a report and needed details. Where exactly did you sell it? What items did you sell? How much did you sell them for? Why did the person pay you in 20s? It turned out I had sold a trailer, and thankfully there was a title transfer involved, so there was a paper trail. But the level of interrogation I went through just to deposit my own money from a legitimate sale was ridiculous. And if I hadn't had that documentation, who knows what would have happened? Would they have frozen my account? Would they have held my money? It's unsettling to say the least. Here's another pattern that's emerging, and this one is particularly concerning for people trying to run small businesses. There was a person who sells electronics, buying and reselling them for profit. Another person sells shoes the same way. They take cash from sales, deposit it in their bank, then withdraw cash later to buy more inventory, then sell that inventory for cash, and the cycle continues. Perfectly legitimate business model that people have been using forever. But now, banks are flagging these accounts, asking if they're trying to launder money. They're questioning why someone keeps depositing and withdrawing cash. It's because they're running a business. But apparently that's now suspicious activity. And let me be very clear about something. All of this is ramping up significantly right now. The current administration is cracking down hard on what they call waste, fraud, and abuse. We heard about this initiative throughout last year with various government agencies getting involved. Now it's really intensifying, and we're seeing these new regulations and enforcement actions popping up everywhere. Different states, different counties, different types of transactions, all getting scrutinized at levels we've never seen before. Now, I need to give you a specific warning, and this applies to a lot of people watching this video. If you're receiving any kind of government assistance, whether it's food stamps, SNAP benefits, WIC, or any other program, you need to be extremely careful about cash deposits in your bank accounts. Here's why. These auditors and investigators are now looking at people who receive government assistance and cross-referencing that with their bank activity. If they see you have several cash deposits and you're on food stamps, they're going to start asking questions. Are you using your SNAP card to buy food and then selling that food to someone else for cash? That's the line of questioning they're going to pursue. This same pattern happened with baby formula during the pandemic. Remember when there were shortages and formula was hard to find? Some people were buying formula with WIC benefits and then reselling it for cash because it was in such high demand. When they deposited that cash into their banks, it raised red flags. Investigators started asking where all that money came from, and if they had that much money, why were they receiving government assistance for baby formula? That situation blew up into a major scandal, and we're going to see more of these types of investigations moving forward. The bottom line is this. Your cash transactions, whether you're depositing money, withdrawing money, or even making purchases at stores, are very likely going to be tracked and potentially flagged going forward. This is the new reality we're dealing with. The government wants visibility into every financial transaction, and cash has always been the one thing they couldn't easily track. Now they're closing that gap, and they're doing it by making cash usage so inconvenient and so suspicious looking that people might just give up and go fully digital. But here's what I want you to understand. Using cash isn't illegal. Running a cash-based business isn't illegal. Preferring privacy in your financial transactions isn't illegal. You have rights, and you shouldn't have to feel like a criminal just because you don't want every purchase you make tracked in some government database. However, you do need to be aware of what's happening so you can protect yourself and be prepared if you face any of these situations. If you run a business that deals in cash, make sure you have excellent documentation. Keep receipts, keep logs, keep any paperwork that shows your transactions are legitimate. If you're depositing cash at your bank regularly, consider having a conversation with your bank ahead of time. Explain your situation, explain your business, and create a record of that conversation. It might not prevent them from flagging your account, but at least you'll have established up front that your activity is legitimate. Before I wrap this up, I want to hear from you again. Comment below and share your experiences. Have you been questioned about cash transactions? Has your account been flagged or frozen? How are these new policies affecting your daily life? Your stories matter, and they help other people understand what's really happening out there. And please, please share this video. This is information that everyone needs to know. regardless of whether they use cash frequently or not, because these policies could expand even further in the future. Subscribe to Benefit Vault if you haven't already, because we're going to continue following this story and bringing you updates as more information comes out. Turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our videos covering financial regulations, government policies, and anything else that affects your money and your freedom. We're here to keep you informed and help you navigate these increasingly complex situations. Remember, knowledge is power. The more you know about what's happening, the better prepared you'll be to handle it. Don't let these changes catch you off guard. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and protect your financial independence. Thank you for watching this important video all the way through. I appreciate you taking the time to stay informed. Hit that like button, drop a comment, share this with your friends and family, and I'll see you in the next video where we'll continue covering the topics that matter most to your financial security. Disclaimer: the information provided in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, financial, or professional advice. Laws and regulations regarding financial transactions vary by jurisdiction and can change frequently. The experiences and examples shared are based on publicly available information and user reports. Viewers should always comply with all applicable laws and regulations, maintain proper documentation for all financial transactions, and consult with qualified legal or financial professionals regarding their specific situations. Benefit Vault makes every effort to provide accurate information, but cannot guarantee the completeness or accuracy of all content. Individual circumstances vary, and viewers should verify all information independently before taking any action.